Hi, this is Bob Woodfin, Bob Woodfin Photography and Rowlett, Texas Photography Club. I want to talk to you right now about blending images, and there are several reasons you may want to blend images, but we're going to talk about three that I think really come to mind. We're going to start with blending images basically in an HDR effect, but it gives you a little bit more control. So what we're going to do is we're going to go File, Scripts, and we're going to say load files into stack, and we're going to browse, and I'm going to go to, let's see, the files that we're going to use for this. It's going to be the files that I have out on the drive. Let's see, for you, stacking images. There we go, for blending. Sorry about that. So we're going to take these three images and we're going to blend them together. So basically with this script and blend or stacking files, you can either have open files that you can use, or you can go out and grab some. And I just went out and grabbed the three that I have given you. We're going to say attempt to align the image sources, or align source images, and basically that means if you handheld them when you shot them, even if you do it on a tripod and you think there may be a tiny bit of movement, then you'll want it to try to align. Now this can take a little bit of time. We're going to go actually, yeah, it's looking at them. So I think I've got the wrong images, but maybe not. It's going to take a look at these and it's going to try to blend them together. Well, right now it's just stacking them. Then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to Edit, Auto Blend Layers. And all three, you have to select all three of the layers that you want to blend. You'll say stack the images. Seamless tones and colors you'll want to do, and I usually do not select content or fill transparent areas, but you could, and it would take these transparent areas. It just takes longer to do that. So I'm going to skip it here so that we can go a little faster. Excuse me. So what this does basically is it goes in, looks at these three images, which you can tell by looking at the layers over here that I shot in three different exposures, and it tries to blend them together based on tones. And so it does kind of the same thing that you do with HDR. This has been out for a long time, and basically it was the predecessor to HDR. So here you have these images where it tried to blend them together. Now the advantage of using this over HDR is that you are able to come in here and manually manipulate these if you don't like how it blended them together. Now, I never use this, but I wanted to show it to you, just excuse me, as just one of the options that we have for stacking images. So that's the first method. Now I'm going to go into the second method, which is something you probably would use, and that happens to be excuse me, sorry about that. That happens to be for focus stacking. So we have some images out there. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to load in a stack, and this is going to take a while to load these because there's 42 images. So let's see, load files into stack. I'm going to browse, and we're going to look in here, stacking images for focus stacking, and there's 42 images. Oops, this JPEG, that's right. So there's two in here for some reason. So we're going to select all of these except that one because it's in here twice. I don't know how that happened. We're going to open. It's got them in the stack here. Again, attempt to blend them together, and we're going to say OK. And that's going to take just a few minutes. You can tell here from this way out of focus image that this is a yellow jacket that I shot last summer, and I basically had just, this one of my first attempts at focus stacking, so it's not great, but it gives you an idea of what to do. So when you're focus stacking, if you haven't done focus stacking before, some cameras have it available in camera. Those that don't, there's software out there that you can get. You can either buy, I think there's some free trials you can get to try them out. Helicon, I think, is one. and basically you put it on your computer and then connect your computer to your camera, and it goes in and shoots the pictures for you. And what it does is, the way focus stacking works is you set it up and say, I want to have 30 images and I want them at these increments. So at those increments it will change the focus each time for each one of those 30 shots. In this case, like I said, I shot 42. So the idea of this is that in an instance where you want to shoot something with a very narrow very narrow focus, plane of focus, then you can shoot multiple images to bring all of those stacks together to create one great in focus image. This is very popular in macro, where you're shooting things like this yellow jacket or small images, where you typically, the way it used to be is you had a little rail that you would put your camera on and you would shoot, and it would take little increments along that rail, and your camera would never change focus. It would just, the camera would be moving along this rail as it changed focus. But nowadays in camera it actually changes the focus of the camera, and I'm not sure that it does as good a job as if you have the rails. I'm not a macro person. This is one of my few attempts at shooting something small like this, but it's also used, you can also do it in landscape photography if you if you're wanting to shoot something other than f/18 or something like that. Maybe you're getting diffraction out at that narrow of a aperture, you may want to shoot at f10 or something, and if you do that, your foreground may be out of focus if your background is in focus, or that sort of thing. So if you focus stack, you can get multiple images and then put them together as a single image in good focus. Excuse me. Well, this is taking quite a long time. I didn't anticipate it taking this long. So what I can do is I can stop this and show you the result, which is actually on my computer here somewhere. Let's see, that was here, 52-week challenge, and I think it was like week 30 something. Landscape nature up close. Here we go. So side view. So if we open this, actually it's this one. If we open this, it's going to open. It's going to take a while because it's again, these are huge files. These are 45 megapixel files. Excuse me. This was saved as a bunch of TIFFs in a large document file, so this is a huge file too. But this won't take as long. It's all that stacking. But I'll show you the result. And basically, you'll get a layer over here that will have each one of the images itself, and then you will have a mask on each one of those images that will mask off different areas, so that you wind up with only the in-focused areas together, so that you get a final image that's in perfect focus. So as we go along here, focus stacking is something that has been hot and cold as far as what I've seen in the on the web and in publications, and it's really hot for a while, and I think that nowadays it's just kind of assumed. I mean, whenever you're shooting macro, and if you have really nice images, I think it's just assumed that you're focus stacking, because that's the best way to get everything in such clear focus. And in landscape, I don't know if it's as prevalent as it is in macro, but I'm pretty sure macro it's used quite a bit. So as this goes along, when this finishes its blending and you get a final image, it usually needs some editing, absolutely. because there's some splotches on it here and there, some areas that may be missing some information, and you may have to do a little cloning, but you'll definitely have to do some cleanup. You'll have the edges that will need to be cropped out, and you'll have, especially in this image, there's some parts of the yellow jacket that are just missing, and so you either have to get creative and clone some of them to get it in there, or you have to totally remove it, which there was one part of a leg that I totally removed, and it didn't take away from the image at all. Excuse me. So here we go. So now you can see over here on the right hand side all the 42 layers, and all of the each one of these is a separate image. Each one of these is a mask to mask off certain parts of it. Now you can see, if we zoom in here a little bit, you can see that it's a really nice in focus image of this yellow jacket, but you have areas here where this leg is just got to be missing. Same thing here, it's missing. You got a little bit of a glow over here that needs to be removed. You got some shadow here that needs to be adjusted to make it look good. You got this part of a leg over here that it just looks like there's something that should be there. So I just got rid of that in the final image. Then you have this little thing right here where you've got some kind of bleed over that. And then you can notice up here, this is kind of a hard area over this transition. Same thing here. So I'm not sure why these wound up this way. And then of course around here you've got some bleed area. So I'm not sure what happened here, but the main subject is there, 99% of it, and you just have to do a little bit of cloning to get it to look perfect. So you got a little bit of chromatic aberration here and over here that you would need to get rid of. So that's really all there is to it. Once, all you do is you take these, you go into your stacking script here, stack files, load files into stack. Then you just, once those are loaded, you go to edit and then auto blend layers. And when you auto blend layers, that's when it's going to take all that time to blend these together and create these masks. And if you have 50, 60 images that are 24, 36 megapixels, 45 megapixels, it's going to take a long time, and it's going to create a big file. So I just wanted to show you the process. Don't care much about the actual end result, except that when you get this far, you just need to do a cleanup. Okay, so that's all that I wanted to show you in regard to focus stacking. So there's one more thing I wanted to show you about blending images, and in this case we're talking about blending images to remove distractions. So I think I mentioned this a couple of times in some of our workshops, and that is that if you are in a place where you have a lot of traffic, meaning people or actual cars or whatever, and you want to have a picture of them without all those distractions of people or cars, just shoot a bunch of images and then blend them together, and that blend will remove those. So I didn't really have an example of that, so I went and I shot myself out on my own patio in different locations. So here's what we have. I'm going to do and this one has a little bit different approach to it. You go File, Scripts, and Statistics. Now statistics, we're going to browse and load these files, and it's going to be removing objects here, and there's five images, and I didn't think about quality of image, so it's going to be not so great for quality, but that wasn't the point. The point here is to show you the process. This is image statistics. Now I don't know if you remember back in whatever classes you took where you had statistics, where you learned about the mean and the minimum, maximum, summation, variance, standard deviation, all that kind of stuff. Don't worry about anything but the median. And the median means excuse me, the median means that it's going to look for pixels that occur most of the time. So in these 5, 6 images that I'm using, it's going to take the pixels from all 6 images and look and see if they occur most of the time. If it occurs most of the time, it's going to select it. So what that will do then is that as people move around, they're not going to be included because those pixels don't occur most of the time, if that makes sense. So attempt to automatically align source images. This was shot on a tripod. It's a bunch of selfies, but always turn that on. It's going to take just a little bit longer. But what's going to happen is we're going to create this, and it's going to create a smart object. So this will take just a few minutes. So there's the first one of me sitting. This is on my patio at home, and I just, like I said, I didn't really bother to even do any correction on these or anything. You can see they're well distorted. I shot it with a wide angle. Didn't bother to worry about correcting the distortion. So it's going to take each one of these and line them up, and then it's going to use that statistical mean to determine what to put in here most of the time. Now I was a little bit worried. You can see over here on the right hand side, here are the 6 images that it's creating, or that it has loaded in here, and now it is aligning them, and then it's going to apply the mean, or the median, I mean. I shot this in the backyard. I was a little bit worried. It was a little windy. I was kind of afraid that with the wind flapping, this thing was flapping in the breeze a little bit, the leaves were going across. I was kind of afraid those would get a little bit of ghosting, but it actually turned out pretty good. You'll see that here in just a minute whenever it adds them all together. And what it's going to do, like I said, is going to create a smart object, and in that smart object you're going to see a picture with me nowhere to be found. And that's actually, this is really good if you want to go out and shoot in the mall and you want to try to get a picture of an empty mall, or you want to go shoot a major thoroughfare and get no cars in the thoroughfare. It's kind of how they do that. You can also do that with long exposures, depending on how slow or how fast some of these things are moving around in your long exposure. So in this case, I wasn't even moving, but instead of using long exposure with me moving around, we're using a different format. So this is almost done here, and there we go. So you can see that I'm nowhere to be found. If you double click on this, this is the smart object. If you double click on it, it's going to open the file with the 6 images in it. At least I think it is. Yeah, so there you go. So there's one image of me on the left. There's an image of me there. Image of me there. Sitting down here, standing, sitting over here. So those are all of the images, and you'll notice that all of this area is available. I never did stand in a place where I was overlapping myself. If I did that, I would need to have more images. So anyway, that's how it goes. That's what happens whenever you use the statistic with median as the statistics, and that's how you do it. So I hope that was helpful. We'll go through these more in the workshop, but I wanted to give this to you to kind of give you a primer, and also a follow-up way on how to go back and take a look at these. If you want to try something like this, you want to go to the mall or something like that, I would shoot a lot more than 5 images. I would shoot probably 30 to 50 images and then try this, and it would take a long time to blend them together, but you would get something that might be pretty cool. All right, that's all I wanted to talk about. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.